Hi guys, I'm Thomas Sampaio here with Jovem do Vinho, and we're here at ProWine, the first day here with Tanyno. And I have the pleasure and the honor to be here with Federico Ceretto from the Ceretto family. We're gonna discuss a little bit about what it means to be a family that's traditional in the Piemonte region and what it means to make such high quality Barolo and to have lived for generations in this. So it's a pleasure to have you.
Mio piacere.
So your family has been making wine for 4 generations now?
Sì, fourth generation, 3.5.
3.5 generations.
The fourth generation is ready to come in a couple of years.
Lovely, lovely. And it seems like from what we were discussing that your grandfather was buying grapes and buying juice and making wine.
Yes.
And then in the 60s and 70s, you started buying vineyards and started having your own plots to make wine from your grapes. Why did you do that?
Well, because our region, Langhe, had a huge shift from a region where 90% of the population were farmers, growers, not only grape, but we were like most of the rural region of Italy. The
Right.
population were limited to be a farmer, a grower. In Alba, we opened the first winemaking school of Italy.
Oh, nice.
So if you wanted to be a
winemaker.
a winemaker, you had to come to Alba to study.
That's
The
amazing.
generation of my father and my uncle, they were the first generation where the family of the farmers, if they were ambitious, they could send their kids to do more time at school and became also a winemaker.
Nice.
So at certain point, you want to have full control of the quality of your production.
Of course.
So the experience of my grandfather was to grow grape because his family was a family of farmers, of growers. He moved to Alba, he started to buy grape, and then when his son Marcello, my uncle, was able to join the company, he said that Dad, we have to make very good wines, not only Dolcetto and Barbera, but also we have to learn more how we can produce a very good Barolo and Barbaresco. And the secret is that you not own, but you control the vineyard.
Of course.
And at that time, this was a very innovative way of thinking. So the price of the land was very cheap. So it was very easy to buy land in multiple villages.
Not so easy now. Now it's a little more difficult.
Allora, today, in 2 generations, the cost of 1 hectare of Barolo or Barbaresco, it's 20 to 25 times more expensive than in the 60s. So today, Barolo and Barbaresco are not only in terms of quality and reputation, but also in terms of position
Right.
on the world of fine wines as the Grand Cru in Burgundy or the Parsons in Bordeaux,
Right.
or in Champagne in Clos du Menil. 1 hectare of Barolo today costs like 1 hectare of Grappa from Serralunga costs like 1 hectare of Chardonnay à Menil-sur-Roget.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And this is also making another shift. So today, if you are a young producer, a new producer, today it's really hard to be able to have your vineyard to make the wines that
Right.
you
Right.
that you want.
Right. And
So my father and my uncle, they just arrived in this window, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, where everything was possible. So we invested.
and you did a good job, clearly. But
We did a good job selecting the best vineyards.
are you still making Dolcetto?
We still make Dolcetto Rossana from a beautiful property. That actually was the last property that my grandfather wanted to buy together with their son.
I see.
So the liaison between the 2 generations, because remember that for 10 generations, Piemonte was the land where 80% of the production of white was what? Langhe,
Yeah.
only reds, no whites.
Right.
The majority of it was Dolcetto.
Right.
Then you move to Asti, you have Barbera,
Yeah.
but in Alba, in Langhe, Dolcetto d'Alba. And Nebbiolo d'Alba, yes. Barolo and Barbaresco was a super very little niche. And the wines were produced in a super traditional way with this crazy and unique
Yeah.
identity of strong phenolic extraction of
Right.
tannin.
Right. Right.
And that is when the legend of Barolo, there is a wine that you drink in 20, 30 years, was born.
Right.
Today, we learned how to vinify each different terroir, so each different parcel, learning the microclimate, learning the soil, learning better and more gentle technique of extraction, more balance, finesse.
Right.
The
Right.
secret is that the closest region from Langhe, it's Bourgogne. 4-hour drive, you are in Lyon,
Right.
and in 1 hour you are in Bonn.
Right.
And this is why we learn not to make one wine like the Chateau of Bordeaux, making one wine with one name, blending the grape, but it was like making multiple wines
Right.
from multiple terroirs,
Right.
learning how to bring in the glass the identity of each parcel.
And I think the MGAs helped a lot with that as well. Right.
See, the MGA in 2010, after 12 years of hard work, put the final word
Right.
of
Right.
the diversity of the Nebbiolo.
Right.
And this is also why the most important grape of Langhe is Nebbiolo.
Right.
It's because Nebbiolo is such a typical kind of wine, but it's also a grape, a varietal that has this sensibility that if the exposure change, the style of wine change, if the elevation change, if the soil change. So it's a perfect grape varietal to
express terroir. Right.
express terroir. Bravo. Yes.
And so obviously Nebbiolo is the big star of Piemonte. But when I go to the region, and I go to the region quite often, we were talking about this, I talk to producers, and a lot of them, they say, of course, my Barolo is my star, but I want to continue doing my Dolcetto because it's the wine that it's always on the table. Is the same for your family? Is Dolcetto a wine that is important for you in terms of tradition, or no?
Well, Dolcetto is important for the tradition. You would be considered a traditore. How do you say?
Yeah, a traitor.
A traitor.
Yeah.
If you refuse such a historical, such an important part of our not only history and tradition, but of our gastronomy. Every osteria, every piola, every restaurant, every family, they have been drinking Dolcetto with our gastronomy for 200 years. So Dolcetto, it's really the taste in wine, is the taste of the flavor of the Langhe gastronomy.
And speaking of gastronomy, you are the owner of perhaps the most important restaurant in the region, the first, if I'm not mistaken, the first restaurant in the Langhe to have a 3-star Michelin.
Yes.
And
Piazza Duomo.
Piazza Duomo, exactly. And then talk to us a little bit about the wine that you make and the food. Do you think that the wine should always be consumed with food? Or, yes. Oh, you do think, okay.
It's a beautiful thing to see marketing and movies and campaign where cool people, they take a glass of wine in the middle of the day, doing nothing, listening music, having a good time, cooking, watching their this. It's a beautiful thing on TV, but it's not the reality. In Italy, we drink wine with food.
Right.
We share wine at the table. We pair wine with cuisine of our families. So, and I tell you even more, when the land, when the area was very poor, very poor, wine was also part of the diet, because half a liter of wine during the day give you the energy. If you are a farmer and outside is Piemonte, Piedmont mountain, it's cold, it's humid,
Right.
it's early in the morning, you need energy to work. So the diet of the farmer was, yes, you eat what you have in your garden,
Of course.
you eat once a week, maybe you kill the chicken, the rabbit. Very rarely you have the meat of the beef. Or we don't have very much tradition with the pork. With the animals in your cascina, in your farm, you do the milk, maybe some cheese, but the diet was mostly vegetable, legumes, bread. Wine was a strong component of the,
Right.
of the diet.
Right.
And I tell you, 25 generation of growers. Today, of course, we cannot go anymore in the vineyard having people drinking half a liter of wine and working, because this is for the laws. This is not. Today, people, thank God that they have a better economical situation, so they
Of course.
eat properly.
Of course.
And wine now is just leisure.
Of course.
But the gastronomy evolved. Lange, not only Piazza Duomo, that is the leading restaurant, but Lange has 3 Michelin star, 2 Michelin star, and 14 1 Michelin star, plus a range of 20, 30, 50 osteria that are spectacular. And my friend, you travel, you can come in my house, you can pick the most amazing library vintage of Barolo, your preferred. If you find another wine region in the world where gastronomy is so good and wine production is so good, the combination of the two at the highest level, it's only in Piemonte.
Yeah.
Because Toscana, it's a wonderful gastronomy, but it's not sophisticated, it's not refined as Piemonte. Champagne and Burgundy, unbelievable wines, but the food, you know, how many times we've been visiting the wineries in Champagne, in Bordeaux, and in Bordeaux.
Bordeaux is a little different.
Bordeaux is different, but Bordeaux there is the noble French cuisine that
Right.
probably today is not so contemporary.
Right.
In Lange, you asked me before. What is the first question you asked me before?
Yeah.
Where do you go?
To
Which
eat,
are your favorite restaurants?
Of course.
Because at the end, you want to open 6 bottles of wine and match it with
With the
good
food. With the, of
and
course.
today, I think the future for our territory, it's more when you sit at the table, tell me what you drink, and then I bring the wine, the food.
The food, of course. The wine obviously leads the way,
Yeah.
guides whatever is happening with the food.
So even the formula, we are opening a 3rd restaurant,
Nice.
and it will be a wine bar in the vineyard of Barolo Brunati in La Morra,
Cool.
with a beautiful terrace, where the concept will be like, you're here in the vineyard watching the Barolo appellation, the beautiful landscape, you have the view, you have the experience, you have the immersion, you know exactly what you want to drink, tell me, and then I make sure, because we have a reputation in gastronomy,
course.
I make sure that the right food will,
That's lovely. Yeah.
will arrive.
But and you mentioned the future. I'm excited to go to this restaurant, of course. But when you think of the future, we discussed this briefly. Back to the winemaking. In 2015, your family did something really important and decided to switch to biodynamic.
Yes.
Can you explain why you would do that?
Every generation of our family made a step that made a big change in the concept of our winemaking. So my grandfather left his farmer's life, went to Alba and opened the winery as a negozio.
Right.
My uncle decided not to buy grape or juice anymore, but make wine from our own vineyard
Right.
and create the collection of all the single vineyards. We were the first winery in 1973 to release 3 different single vineyards of Barbaresco at the same time, rather than blending and doing a Barbaresco Classico. Well, my cousin Alessandro, he met the Lydia and Claude Bourguignon. They were looking for opportunity to learn about the soil in a new environment. They did the Champagne conversion to the first the Burgundy, then the Champagne conversion. They work now with Roderer, for example.
Right.
So they said, we want something in Italy, and Barolo with all the different terroirs would be the perfect. So my cousin said, well, come at Ceretto and let's see together how is my soil,
Right.
how is my terroir situation right now.
Right.
We saw that there was a lot to improve in terms of health, in terms of energy, in terms of fertility, in terms of all the elements that give identity
Right.
to your parcel of wine,
Right.
of vines. So we started with small parcels, then we converted the larger estates, and then in 2015 we finished the conversion for the white wine, Aranese, that for us is the most popular wine, is the largest range of years. And I have to tell you one thing that is very important for us, and this is the right message to bring. We don't make biodynamic wines. We make biodynamic grapes. Biodynamic wines, it's a concept that is in conflict. Biodynamic is an agricultural
Practice. Right.
practice.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
you arrive with your biodynamic grape. Then you arrive with your harvest in the cellar, and then you can decide. You can decide to be more technical, more winemaker. Then is where now a new range of producer, they say, no, I also want to be natural in my winemaking, so natural wines. But this is a different story.
Right.
Biodynamic ends when you harvest and you bring the grape
Perfect.
at the winery.
And do you think, given?
But that made a big influence also in the approach of our winemaking.
Oh, it did.
We changed things, of course, because once you have your harvest that express the purity of the vintage, of the soil, of the microclimate, of your varietal.
You're not going to mask it later, huh?
Exactly. So maquillage, makeup doesn't make sense anymore.
Of course.
You don't need too much extraction.
Right.
You don't need too much concentration. You don't need too much alcohol. You don't need too much oak. You don't need too much, how can I say, manipulation. Okay? So winemaking can be delicate, precise, pure as well. And the result is when you find in the glass, every vintage you release, that each your individual single vineyard has an identity that it's in the glass.
Right.
Then for me, it's when you are loyal to your biodynamic work in the vineyard.
And
This is what we did. It took us 10 years.
10 years.
The wines we have today, we are super happy because these are the wines we really want to have. But to go from a conventional winemaking into a more, how can I say, more...
It's slightly more purist, more
Yeah,
hands-off. Yes.
More hands-off, bravissimo.
Yeah.
The wines has changed, and I am absolutely not afraid to say that the wines are lighter in a positive way, because
Yes.
in reality they are more pure,
There's more finesse.
and also because we cannot hide behind the bottle saying that the climate change is not happening. We also have healthier grape, but earlier harvest.
Right.
So now the style of Nebbiolo, we bring the characteristics of the grape of Nebbiolo, we bring home after during harvest. They have characteristic probably not to be anymore the super phenolic, the super tight, except a few villages like Serralunga
Right.
or Treviso.
Right.
So Serralunga and Treviso, they can in Monforte, they can still make bold tannic wines.
Right.
There is a concept also of elevation, mostly. It's colder, you wait longer in the harvest,
Right.
but all the other wines are much more balanced. They are much more enjoyable. And this is why today everybody started to go crazy for Barolo and Barbaresco, because now I give you a glass of Barolo and Barbaresco and you are not blocked by the tannins,
Yeah.
and killed by the sharpness of the acidity.
Right.
But now the wines are pure, the fruit is there, the layers of the floral
Yeah.
elements in the nose are there. The wine are not so tight, but they are generous. They are full of energy. They are singing. They
Right.
talk to you.
Right.
And people understand it. Now the wines are understandable. Before they were framed in this historical concept of harvest the latest possible. The reason why in the 40s, in the 50s, in the 60s, and in the 70s, the growers, they were postponing the harvest as much as possible. It's not because they were looking over phenolic ripeness
Right.
in the skin. It's because the wine houses, like my grandfather, they pay by alcohol content.
Aha! I didn't know that. Huh?
If you wait 2-3 weeks more, maybe you earn half degree.
I didn't know that.
And you get a little bit more. They were poor farmers. And the wine houses, they were taking advantages of this.
I didn't know this.
Then the growers, finally, the kids went to school, they learned how to make a wine. Another big thing, you know Nutella?
Nutella, of course.
Nutella is from Alba.
I know.
It's from Ferrero, is from Alba. Half of the population of Langhe became from very poor to stable because Ferrero was hiring half of the population.
Okay.
Half of the people work for Ferrero. And Ferrero said, work for me, take care of your land, don't sell, take care of your land for the hazelnuts, but sell the vineyards because vigneron is too much of a work. So we were able to buy the vineyards, okay? But the second generation, they were like, Dad, keep the vineyards. I will make wine.
Yeah.
We can go to the bank because we have a salary. You, mama, uncle, my brother, you work for Ferrero. We go to the bank, we take the money, we fix the farm.
Yeah.
A part of the farm become a little winery.
Right.
And all the small producers that today are big names, Altare, Sandrone, Boerzio, all of them, they in the 70s and the 80s, they became growers and winemakers in the little farm houses of fantastic wines. And then started the competition. And when you have not only the big names, not only the new wine families like Ceretto, but also the younger kids,
Right.
you know, the Barolo boys,
Yeah.
they wanted to make the revolution.
Of course. I was there with Diego Conterno. We were talking about the Barolo boys. He still
You
has the
can
car. Huh?
imagine, I was young, but I was already old enough to understand the fight between the
Modernist and the traditionalist. Yeah.
Imagine Roberto Boerzio that talked with Teobaldo Capellano. But this, at the beginning, maybe was a conflict.
Right.
And a lot of people created a lot of stories of
Hype.
this.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. That in reality, they were all people working in the vineyards,
Right.
but with different ideas. This was too much of an old-fashioned way. That was too much of a modern fashion way. And now what happened?
Balance.
Balance. And today we have, I think, more than 100 wineries that produce fantastic wine. Why? Because the MGA, the terroir, the single vineyards became the law. A great wine comes from a great vineyard if there is a very good vigneron.
Exactly.
We only have good vignerons. Whatever your traditionalist, modernist, young, new, Giulia Negri, or which is the oldest one?
I don't know.
Accomasso.
Accomasso might be the oldest one.
Accomasso Giulia Negri. 60 years difference.
Yeah.
In these 60 years, in between, only great vigneron making great harvests. Then in the cellar, you do, in your house, you do what you want.
Yes, you put your identity. Yeah?
Then the confusion was barrique, no barrique, this and this, concentration, color, alcohol.
Bottle.
Yeah, basta.
So of course, Barolo is a region with a very rich history. It's gone back and forth. You've seen the Barolo boys, the modernists, the traditionalists, and it has evolved over the years. But when you look at Barolo now, when you look at the future of, I'm going to say the region, not just Barolo, Barbaresco, but the region itself in Piemonte. Where do you see the region with the winemakers and the wines going in the next years?
Together with the MGA, so there is a map.
Yeah.
We also introduced the village system.
Right.
Barolo from Barolo Comunale, from the
Right.
from the villages.
Right.
So now you can have single vineyard Barolo, Barolo village, and Barolo Classico, the blind.
Right.
This, for me, is the beginning of a good path that will take us to a classification of vineyards. So the next statement should be that you have to classify the vineyards.
Gotcha.
Because Barolo, it's always good. Yes. Good, great, exceptional. In viticulture all over the world, there are always 3 layers of quality of wine. You can call it the Grosse Gewachs, you can call it the Grand Cru, you can call it
a Gran Reserva, maybe.
But there is always like this. So I see a Barolo, a generic Barolo production, maybe for the big bottling companies. Then I see a good potential for the village.
Right.
La Morra,
Right.
where probably the new small producer will get a proper recognition.
Right. Right.
Giulia Negri makes fantastic, but she has the La Tartufaya. But,
Yes.
you can have the wines from the villages.
But it can be like
Then we need the classification of the 50, 60, 70 top vineyards that are already there.
Yeah.
Because if you check the price of the trading properties over the last 100 years in vineyards, you will always see that a parcel of Canubi cost 10 times of a parcel of at the bottom of Verduno.
Yeah.
So it's already there. It's just that politically it's complicated.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.